Hey yogi friends, Cathy here. So glad that you are here to practice with me today. It is finally, as I'm recording this, starting to warm up here in Atlanta and went out for a walk in the sunshine. It feels fantastic and was really energizing. And so I wanted to come back and share an energizing practice with you. So this one may be a little more intense than some other practices that you have done if you've been practicing with me in some of the other videos, and I'll offer some options on how to bring that intensity down if you want to do that. So come into your comfy seat here, get the legs crossed in any way that's comfortable for you, settle into your space, close the eyes, and let's get started. Start by just observing the temperature of the air in the room. And then notice the clothing against your skin. Bring the attention to those points in the body that are grounded securely on the surface beneath you. And maybe even notice them individually, those points in the feet, the ankles, the legs, and the bum, where you're securely fastened by gravity and grounded in this space. And notice any other sensations in the body, any energy that may be moving about, any numbness or tingling, any soreness, or just any other feelings, any bodily sensations. And let's bring attention to the spine. We want to be tall in the spine from deep in the pelvis all the way up through the back, the neck, and the crown of the head. Allowing the shoulders to just relax away from the ears. And let's finally settle our attention on the breath. Noticing the pacing and depth of the breath. And even noticing as the inhale comes in through the nostrils, how that feels, that cool air on the inhale coming in through the nostrils, into the throat, and then into the lungs. And how that exhale feels warmer as it exits through the throat and the nostrils. And maybe you want to bring one hand to the belly as we begin our deep belly inhales, really expanding the lower abdomen, drawing oxygen deep down into the lungs, up through the lungs, and all the way up to the collarbone, maybe even lifting that collarbone slightly. And then relaxing the collarbones down, pressing the exhale out by pulling the navel toward the spine to really press the exhale completely out of the lungs. Let's do another big full belly breath. Feeling the expansion on the inhale. And then drawing navel to spine on the exhale. One more big full belly breath. And after this next inhale, we'll chant Om together once to open our practice. And then just bringing the breath back to a normal pattern. You may have noticed the vibrations of that Om sound coming up through the center of the body, up through the torso into the head. Just centering us here in this space and reminding us of that life force that connects us all to one another and to every other living being. And we share this life force, this energy with. Let's start today with some alternate nostril breathing just to bring us into a really balanced place. We'll take the index finger and the middle finger and place them right between the eyebrows or maybe just slightly above. And you can use the ring finger to close the left nostril when it's time to do that. And then use the thumb to close the right nostril. And this is the right hand that you have up on the forehead and near the nose. And the left hand can have palm facing up or come into chin mudra with the pointer finger and the thumb touching one another. Let's sit tall in the spine, closing off the right nostril, breathing in very deeply to the count of 6 through the left nostril. Closing the left and exhaling through the right to the count of 6. Inhaling to the count of 6 on the right. Closing the right and exhale to 6 on the left. Inhale left. Close left, exhale right. Inhale right to the count of 6. Exhale left. Inhale left. Close left, exhale right. Inhale right. Close right, exhale left. Inhale left. Close left, exhale right. Inhale right. Close right, exhale left. And let's continue. Inhaling left, count to 6. Closing left, exhale right. Inhale right. Close left, exhale on the left. And we'll do just a few more rounds. Inhaling left. Close, exhale right. Inhaling right. Close and exhale left. And I'll let you continue on your own for just a few more rounds. Let's do one more round. And when you've finished breathing out or exhaling through the left-hand side, just bring the right hand down to rest on the leg for just a moment, bringing the breath back to its normal pacing. The alternate nostril breathing, or nadi shodhana, is a way of balancing the energy in the body, the feminine and masculine energy. It's also a very grounding and calming breath. So you can do that at any point during the day when you just need to bring bring yourself back to center and calm the body and the mind. When you feel ready, let's gently open the eyes. And we're going to start with some warming up movement. So lift the hands up above the shoulders. Clasp the fingers and press the palms toward the ceiling, lengthening up through the crown, allowing shoulders to relax away from the ears, pressing through the base of the palms, and really feel some lengthening here in the side body and the arms, maybe in the back. And as we release the clasp, let's turn and twist to one side, bringing the front arm to rest on the leg, the back arm right behind the hip, lifting up on the inhale. And as we exhale, just glancing toward the back shoulder, moving only to the extent that it is comfortable for the body. We don't want to cause any tension. And as we come to the center, lifting the arms back up over the shoulders again, lengthening through the fingertips, and then we'll take that twist to the opposite side, lengthening up on the inhale again, and on the exhale, just glancing toward that back shoulder. And again, keeping the twist to a comfortable extent. Lift the hands here to make sure you're not pressing yourself into the twist, but using the muscles of the midsection to hold you in this position. And as we come back to center, let's lift the arms up again, and then we're going to lower the fingers right down in front, walking the fingertips forward. We're going to do some hip opening here. Press the sits bones back and down as we lengthen up through the crown. You can glance down toward the floor between the fingertips. And just notice where you feel the most intensity here. Think of drawing the inhale into those intense places, scooping up that tension, and then drawing it back out on the exhale. Just imagine the breath serving you in that way. Let's walk the fingertips over to frame one knee. Again, pressing those sits bones down as we lengthen up through the crown, working to keep a flat back here. That allows us to really open the hips a little bit more. And then we're going to walk the fingers over to the other knee, framing that other knee. Notice how it might feel different on this side of the body. Just notice any other sensations. This whole practice, any yoga practice that you have, should be very much about noticing. Noticing what's going on in the mind and the body. Let's bring the fingertips back to center, using them to press up to seated. We're going to swap legs now. So opposite leg either on top or in front in your Sukhasana. Lifting the fingertips back up over the shoulders, straight up toward the ceiling, and then lowering them down in front of that front leg. Walking the fingertips forward. Lengthening through the spine, pressing sits bones back and down. And notice how this might feel really different with this leg in front or on top of the cross than it did in the other leg. Sometimes you might feel it in a completely different place. And again, let's walk fingertips over to frame one knee, pressing those sits bones back and down as we lengthen through the crown. And then we'll come back to center with the fingertips, walking them over to frame the opposite knee, and really allowing ourselves to lengthen up tall here as we bend just slightly toward that knee. And then we're going to bring fingertips back to center, press up back to seated. And if you want to swap legs back to your more natural, more comfortable position, you can. Let's lift the fingertips out to either side, about 12 inches off the mat. We're going to begin a torso twist here. This is one of my favorite moves for just helping to align the spine and really get the muscles of the back warmed up and ready for some bigger movements. Keeping the spine tall, let's begin to lift the arms up to shoulder height and notice how that brings this movement into a different section of the back. And then turn the palms to face the ceiling Just letting the neck and the arms follow the torso. Let's begin to lift the hands up into a V shape, keeping this as wide or as narrow as works best for your body today. And then notice how this has brought the movement up into the upper back. And let's begin to lower the arms down slowly back to shoulder height, and then all the way back down as we continue to bring the fingertips toward the mat, and we'll slow that down. Let's begin our pendulum move from side to side. Now, the only curvature of the spine here is side to side, so we don't want to be leaning back or forward, but just side to side. Let's go ahead and bring one arm overhead and then the other arm overhead. On this move, let's think of lengthening up first through the fingertips toward the ceiling and then bending over. And we're just going to hold here for just a moment. We'll get back into a little quicker pace in a sec, but I want to take some time to really lengthen here on the side body and think of pressing this hip that's on the same side as the extended arm, pressing it down into the mat, helping to lengthen that side. Let's go to the opposite side now, lengthening fingertips first up toward the ceiling, and then we'll lengthen over to the side. Pressing that sits bone down again, that's on the same side, and releasing the shoulder away from the ear. You may have just seen me move mine down. I had it crunching up toward my ear. Now let's bring a little quicker pace to this. Really think of lengthening out through the fingertips as you lengthen the arm up above. And then let's come to stillness. Lengthen one arm out in front of the shoulder, keeping the shoulder plugged in. We're just going to lengthen and stretch the arm right up above the shoulder. And then as we bring it back, we're going to twist and look back toward that palm. And then we'll bring that arm back up over the shoulder and bring it all the way down to touch the leg or the floor in front of us. And we'll just continue this move, opening up the shoulder here, adding a little bit of a twist at the same time. And keeping the pace rather slow and conscious. Keeping the spine tall. And the next time that the fingertips touch the mat or the leg in front, we'll just relax that arm and change sides. So lengthen the opposite arm out, keeping the shoulder plugged in. We'll lift the fingertips up over the shoulder and then bring that arm back and glance back toward the hand as it touches the floor behind us. Arm forward and up to touch the floor or the leg or the foot. And then lifting back up and bringing the palm down behind us to touch the floor behind. And notice how this feels on this side of the body versus the other side. Doing a lot of noticing today. I like to do that as a part of every practice. I think it's a good part of practicing yoga is just to really notice the sensations that we don't often take time to notice during the regular course of our day. Let's do one more of these. So lengthening up and back. And then we'll bring the fingertips up over the shoulder and back down. All right. Let's come into a tabletop position. So fingers are going to be spread nice and wide, really wide fingers with lots of space between them. We're going to grip into the fingertips. So you're almost making spiders out of the hands. The reason for that is that we want to prevent the wrist from taking on all the weight of the front body, and we also are strengthening the forearms. Knees directly under the hips, feet directly behind the knees. Lengthen through the crown. Draw the navel up to the spine here, supporting the low back. And then from the strong foundation in tabletop, we're going to drop the belly down, lift the tailbone and the crown, and then stay here. And you may want to rock forward and back on the hands just a bit, if that feels good in your body. And on an exhale, we'll come to stillness and then draw the navel toward the spine, curving the spine toward the ceiling. And again, if you want to do a little bit of a rock here, you can. And then we're going to come back to tabletop, and let's drop the belly into our cow position, raise the crown and the head. Exhaling, navel to spine, curving the spine toward the ceiling. Pressing into the base of the palms, the tops of the feet, and the knees to really get the most curvature that we can in the spine. And then coming back to neutral. From here, we're going to bring the hips back to the heels and lower the forehead to the mat. And then we're going to bring the weight forward, coming onto the knees, come onto the forearms, drop the belly, raise the crown slightly, press into the base of the palms, and come into a cow. And then we're going to come into a cat, and then take the hips back again. So we're doing a fluid cat-cow here with some added movement. Coming onto the forearms, pressing into the base of the palms, and then coming into our cat. Bringing the hips back to the heels, toward the heels. Weight forward onto the forearms, press into the base of the palms, come into your cow. Transition into your cat and bring the hips back toward the heels. Let's do 2 more of these. And this next time we come up to our cow, then we're going to just come back to a neutral tabletop position. And we're going to do some hip circles. So we're going to press the hips out to one side, bringing the hips back toward the heels, crossing over the heels, and pressing the hips out to the other side. And then we come back to tabletop. So we're just making these large circles with the hips, bringing them forward, out to one side, backward, out to the opposite side. And the hips may or may not come to touch the heels. We're just bringing them in that direction. And the next time that you're back up in tabletop, we're going to stop in that direction and go the opposite. So take those big hip circles in the opposite direction. And remembering here to grip into the fingertips. So we have those spider hands. We want to remember also to prevent the neck from, once we are in tabletop, we just don't want to let the neck really fall forward and down. We want to keep it in a straight line, the spine straight when we're in that tabletop position. Let's do 1 more here, and the next time that you're back up into tabletop, we're just going to come to this neutral tabletop position, and then we're going to curl the toes, move the palms forward slightly by maybe 1 palm's length if that feels good, coming up into our down dog. So lifting the hips up high, pressing the heels toward the mat. Lengthen the crown of the head toward the front edge of the mat, so that will provide some space between shoulders and ears. And again here, really gripping the fingertips so that only the base of the palm and the fingertips and the thumb pad are touching the mat. The rest of the hand is lifted there. You can pedal the feet here. That can feel really good. I get a little snap, crackle, pop in my ankles sometimes here. We don't want to have any pain, but sometimes we'll hear a little bit of that snap, crackle, pop, which I'm working to resolve. And then let's come to stillness, bringing the big toes slightly closer to one another and the heels slightly wider. You'll notice a sensation, a different sensation in the backs of the legs, maybe all the way from the heels up to the hips. With that move, and just hold there for a moment and breathe. And then let's bring the feet back to parallel. And then we're going to walk the feet forward. One step at a time, coming into our forward fold. And once you get there, just take a little sway from side to side. You might grab opposite elbow with opposite hand. Let gravity do the work here of pulling the head toward the feet. And just let yourself hang. And sway a bit. You can shake the head yes and no to release a little neck tension. Maybe exaggerating that no and exaggerating the yes. And then we're going to roll up to mountain. If ever you feel a little lightheaded or dizzy in that forward fold, go ahead and come on up to mountain. Let's bring the hands to prayer position here. And to make sure that the weight is evenly distributed between the 2 feet, you can rock a little forward and back, a little side to side. And just make sure that we've got our weight evenly distributed. We're going to drop the hands down, raise them up overhead, and take a little back bend here at the top. So engage the thighs, engage the abdominals, and engage the glutes as you lean back a little bit. And then bring the hands back down to prayer position. We're going to do some sun salutations with some variations. So we'll begin, again, lifting fingertips up above the shoulders, taking that little back bend up at the top, and diving forward into our forward fold again. Again, let the gravity do its job here. A little sway again might feel nice. Maybe a little flat back lengthening of the crown out in front. You can bring the palms wherever they are most comfortable in that flat back position. Let's lift the right heel and bring the right foot back onto the toes. So lengthen that right foot back as far as you can before you come down onto the toes. And you can lower that knee. I'm going to grab my blocks here because I like to be able to bring the surface up to me just a little bit more in this low lunge. Make sure front knee is right over front ankle. And lift up through the crown, lengthen up tall. Think of pulling the left hip back just slightly. And just hold here for a moment, feeling that lengthening in the front of the right hip flexor, front of the right hip. And from this position, we're going to bring the left hand to the knee and then the right hand to the knee. Notice how that feels. And you may even press up just slightly to come just a little bit taller so that we're not just collapsing down into the hips, collapsing into the hips. We're using the legs to press us up just a little bit. Let's raise the arms up above the shoulders if that feels steady. If not, just leave the hands on the knee. And then from here, we're going to open the arms wide out from the shoulders. And then we're going to twist toward the side of the bent knee. So arms are open wide out from the shoulders. Torso twists toward the bent leg, side of the body. And if you still feel steady here and you'd like to, you can do some reverse warrior arms, lifting the front arm up over the shoulder, bringing the back arm back. Maybe it rests on the thigh. Maybe it just lengthens toward the floor. We'll bring the arms back to shoulder height, coming back around to face the front. Bring the arms back up over the shoulders once more, maybe looking up toward the ceiling, and then bringing those hands down to the blocks or to the floor. And we're going to give some relief to that front leg. So roll back onto the front heel, straightening the front leg. Give yourself a little bend there. And you may want to move your blocks if you have them back a little more. You may want to change the setting of the block to higher or lower. And we're just going to do this runner's stretch here, really stretching through the back of that left leg. bringing the nose to point toward, bringing the toes to point toward the nose toward toes as well. And working to keep this right hip over the right knee, and at least in the same plane with the right knee and the right foot. Lengthen through the crown here, from crown to tail. We want to have a straight line as possible. And then we'll roll forward onto that left foot, bring the blocks over to either side, plant the palms down on the mat, come up onto the back toes. We're going to come into a plank here, so bring that left foot back to meet the right. Hold your plank here for just a moment. And then you can either lower the knees or keep the knees lifted and stay on the toes. Lean forward just a bit, bringing the weight forward so that you can lower down, keeping the elbows super close to the body. And if that is really strenuous, I would suggest bringing the knees down and then lowering down to the belly. We're going to come into a cobra, so make sure that the hands are right beneath the shoulders, pressing up, pressing the pubic bone into the mat, lifting the torso off the mat using the back muscles, and then lowering down, also using the palms of the hands there, of course. Let's curl the toes under, and you can come up either through a tabletop or press up into a plank, and then come into your down dog. And walk the feet here a little bit. Pedal the feet. Walk the dog, as it's often called. Lengthen that crown toward the front edge of the mat, gripping into the surface of the mat with the fingertips. Let's come to stillness here. Lifting that right leg in a diagonal from the right hip. So pressing out through the heel. Bend the right knee so that the heel comes toward the hip. And then turn the torso toward the right side of the room. So you can look underneath the right armpit. And throughout all of this, please remember to breathe. It's super important. Really opening through that quad, and again through the right front hip, and also through the inside of that left leg. Let's come back to center, keeping that diagonal leg. Now we're going to bring the right knee super close to the chest, come up onto that back toe and bring the weight forward onto the hands, and then take 1 or 2 steps to bring that right foot forward. And you can lower the right or the left knee here if you like, or you can leave it up, staying on the back toes of the left foot. Make sure that the feet are like railroad tracks here. We're not on a tightrope. And you can bring a block under the left hand if you like. We're going to come into a twist here in this lunge. So take the left hand right under the left shoulder to support the weight in front. And then draw the right hand across the outside of the right calf, and then twist to the right and lengthen that right arm up over the fingertips. If you'd like to add a little intensity here, think of lifting the right hip and pressing it back slightly, just slightly, and you'll notice a difference in the sensation there. And then let's bring that right hand down. You can move the block over to the side if you had one. Put a little bend in that back knee. That's going to give you a little momentum to bring the left foot forward, taking 1 or 2 steps to bring it up into your forward fold. And in this forward fold, take notice of how the right leg feels versus the left leg after that bit of our practice. And then we'll rise up into our mountain with fingers up above the shoulders, a little back bend at the top again, and then bring the hands to prayer position. Take a moment to close the eyes and just notice any feelings or sensations in the body. Maybe even notice any thoughts or emotions that might be coming up at the moment. Just observing what's going on in the mind and body. Let's do the other side. Open the eyes, hands go down to come up, back bend up at the top, and then we'll dive forward into our forward fold.
Little sway here, maybe a little shake of the head. And then we'll take the left foot, raise the heel, bring the left toes back as far as you can. And either keeping the knee up, which is going to be challenging. I'm going to lower my knee. You can certainly keep it up if you'd like. Come into your lunge here, first of all. So on the toes would be a higher lunge, like so. Holding in this lunge position for a moment, pulling that right hip back just a bit. Noticing how that changes the stance. And then let's bring the right hand up to the right knee, left hand up to the right knee. Take notice of the knee over the ankle is where we want it to be. And then lifting up just slightly, pressing into the right heel, into the left knee, so we're not completely falling into that lunge. And from here, if you feel stable enough, bring the arms up over the shoulders. Maybe we look slightly up toward the ceiling. We're going to bring the arms down to shoulder height, twisting toward that bent knee, side of the room, side of the body. Holding here for a moment. Feeling maybe a little shake where we're building some strength. And then we can take those reverse warrior arms if that feels comfortable. Maybe even glancing up toward the hand that's extended up high. Bringing arms back to shoulder height. Twisting back to the front. Lowering those hands down to the mat or to blocks. And bringing some relief to that right leg. Move your blocks wherever you would like. Rolling on to the heel of that front leg and pointing the toes toward the nose. And again, we want to keep the left hip, knee, and foot in one plane. There's a tendency for the hip to want to pop out to the side, so we want to prevent that. And using your blocks on whatever setting is most comfortable for you. Let's roll forward onto that foot. Put your blocks over to the side. Plant the palms. We're going to come into our plank. So raise the back toes, or the back leg up onto the back toes. Bring that right foot back to meet the left. Hold in your plank here for just a moment. Really draw the navel up to the spine. And decide whether you want to bring knees down, which is perfectly fine. You can cross the ankles if you like. However you are, keep the elbows super close to the body and bring the body down to rest on the belly. I'm going to take a cobra here again. Press into the pubic bone, press into the base of the palms, and use the upper back muscles to help you lift up into your cobra, lengthening up through the crown, lowering back down. Let's come up through tabletop or plank into our downward facing dog. Pedaling the feet here. Coming to stillness. Let's do that move again where we bring the toes slightly closer, opening the heels, lengthen the tailbone toward that crease between the wall and the ceiling behind you, and lengthen the forehead, not the forehead, the crown toward the front of the mat, gripping into the fingertips and the thumb pad. Bring the feet back to parallel. Lift the left leg so that the hip is in a diagonal line with the left heel. So we're lengthening out through the left heel. Bend the left knee so the heel comes toward the hip, and then twist the torso over toward the left-hand side so we can look under that left armpit. Feel the lengthening in the inside of the right leg as you also feel that opening in the left hip and the left front of the left thigh, the left quad. And then we'll bring that leg back to its diagonal, the left leg. Draw the left knee super close to the chest. Bring the weight of the body onto the hands, and then step that left foot forward. take 1 or 2 steps, whatever works best. You can leave the back leg up on the toes or bring the knee down, whichever you prefer. We're going to come into that twist again. So if you'd like to bring a block under the right palm, you can. Right palm directly under right shoulder. Come up onto the back toes if you like. Draw the left, left palm across the outside of the left calf. Twist toward the left side of the room and lengthen that left palm toward the ceiling. Fingertips reaching up. And again, keeping that hip, knee, and ankle in one plane. So that if we were up against the wall, they would all be touching. And then if you would like to add a little bit of intensity, think of lifting up and back just a centimeter, and you'll notice a difference. Let's bring that left hand down, moving the block off to the side, little bend in that back knee, and bring the right foot forward to meet the front. And if the knee was down, then all we do is raise up onto the toes, bend that back knee, and bring that right foot forward. I don't want to forget about that variation. Sway here side to side. Shake the head. Wiggle the noggin. A little bend in the knees here is always welcome. There's no need to lock the knees out. We just want to feel comfortable and lengthened. Let's rise up tall to our mountain pose. Little back bend up at the top. And then bring hands to prayer position once again. Take a moment to close the eyes again. Notice the heartbeat. Notice the pattern and depth of the breath. Notice any other sensations in the body. Let's lower the hands down. Come to wide legs on the long edge of the mat. Let's turn the toes out a bit. Raising the arms up, really lengthening out through the fingertips, through the feet, through the crown of the head, drawing the navel in a nice big star pose. Feel the energy of your body here. Feel the energy you've created in that somewhat intense practice that we just had. I like to think of a little snow globe or bubble around me containing this energy that I've created. Let's bring the hands down to the hips, and we're going to come into a forward fold. To start, maybe bring the feet in just slightly. First, come forward with the head. So we're really lengthening out through the crown as we bend forward, but we are not going all the way toward the floor just yet. Lengthen the crown out in front. Lift the elbows toward the ceiling so you can feel some opening in the front of the chest. And then we'll come all the way down with the head coming toward the floor. Now allow the hands to relax wherever they feel most comfortable. If you have a block and the forehead will reach the block, you may want to rest the forehead on the block. Something that I did not mention. The feet at this point, toes should be turned in slightly. So if they are not, I would suggest doing that. You'll be able to feel the weight of the legs coming into the outer edges of the feet when you have the toes turned in just a bit and the heels are slightly wider. And just hang here for a moment in this inversion, bringing more blood flow to the head. Again, if this isn't right for your body, you can always come down into a squat. That's where we're headed next. But any dizziness or anything of that nature, you want to go ahead and come out of this position. Let's bring the hands back to the hips. Bend the knees. We're going to come back to that flat back, extending the head forward first, lifting the elbows again, and then come all the way up to standing. Now to come into our squat, we do want to turn the heels in, toes out again. Bring the hands to prayer position. And keep a block handy in case you would like to have it for a supported squat. Let's start by bending the knees over the middle toes. That's our goal here. And if you think, I'm going to need to move the feet in, move the feet out, you decide what's going to work best for your body. But we're turning the legs out from the hips down to the feet. And then we can start to bring those toes, those knees over those toes, and come down slowly. You may need to grab a block for balance. You may want to bring the hands to the floor. If you'd like to do a supported squat, you can bring the block underneath the bum and come to sit on it, bringing the elbows inside the knees, pressing knees and elbows into each other. If you'd prefer, you can always come into the squat. One thing I like to do before I come into the full squat is to rock from side to side on my feet. This helps to open up my hips and allows me to be a little more comfortable once I get into the squat. So I'm just rocking from heel on one foot to toe on the other. So I'm on my left toe, I'll be on my right heel. On my right toe, I'll be on my left heel. And then after I've rocked a bit, my feet are just in a really great position to come all the way into this squat, whether I have the block beneath my bum or not. So let's hold here for just a moment. This might feel intense in the hips, and if it does, putting the block beneath helps to release that intensity. We want to try to keep a straight spine here as well. If you have the block, go ahead and move it. We're going to bring the hands back behind us and bring the bum all the way down to our mat. Let's come into a Dandasana with the legs extended straight out in front, facing the short edge of our mat. Lengthen tall through the spine, arms up above the shoulders, lengthening through fingertips. Toes are toward the ceiling, little bend in the legs here. And then let's bend from the hips and lengthen forward, nose toward toes. And when you've reached your edge, just bring the hands down to rest on either side of the legs. We want to work toward a flat back, so if that means that your forward bend is up a little higher, then so be it. Because by lengthening tall through the spine, we're creating more length in the back of the legs. And make sure to give yourself a little bend in the legs here. No need to lock the knees. We never want to lock out the joints. If the fingertips reach the toes and you want to give a little tug back, that can give a little more length in the back of the legs. And then if you want to eventually curve the spine forward and let the head hang just a bit, that can feel nice also. To come out of this position, we'll lengthen the arms back out above the shoulders and sit up tall once again, lowering the arms down. Let's take the left knee and bend it so that the sole of the left foot rests on the mat. Bring it to the outside of the right knee. So we're just lifting that left foot across, coming to the outside of the right knee. So the left ankle, outside of left ankle is touching the left knee. So we're coming into a twist. Lift the left arm up over the shoulder, bring it back so that the hand rests right behind the hip. Bring the right arm up over the shoulder, and then use that arm, either the hand or if the elbow reaches to around the knee, you can circle or grab the knee with the elbow and twist to look over the left shoulder. And think of lifting up tall through the spine here. Remembering to breathe. All of these twists are really great for our digestion and our abdominal organs. To come out of this twist, we'll lift the right arm up over the right shoulder, lower it down, lift the left arm up, and then we'll use that left hand as we bring it down to move the left foot back over. Extend that left leg. Now we'll do this on the opposite side. Bend that right knee. Right foot comes over left to rest just outside the left knee. Right hand up over the shoulder and then down behind to rest right behind the hip. Left arm up over left shoulder. And using the hand or the elbow, we'll just extend around the knee, lifting up tall and glancing over that back shoulder. Just hold here for a moment. Remembering to breathe. We want to keep our shoulders parallel to the floor, so we don't want one higher than the other. Lengthen tall through the crown. Feel the sensations in the body. To come out, we will release the left arm first, lifting it up over the shoulder. Releasing the right arm up over the shoulder, bringing that right foot back to the right side and lengthening legs out once again. Let's come forward just a little bit on our mat, rocking the hips side to side to sort of walk the hips forward. And then we're going to bend the knees so they face the ceiling and the soles of the feet are on the floor. Bring the hands back behind. And we're going to just rock the knees from side to side. So giving a little bit of a massage to the hips and also a nice rotation in the hips. Let's not sink down with the shoulders. Let's keep pressed up with a wide open chest. Might get a little more snap, crackle, pop in the joints here too. All right, come back to stillness at the center. And then we're going to turn the hands. Either fingers can face the body, fingers can face out to the sides, or fingers can face back behind you. We're going to come into a reverse table. So knees are bent toward the ceiling, toes are pointed toward the front of the mat, soles of the feet flat on the mat. For me, it feels best to bring my fingertips to face my bottom. And from here, we're going to press into the heels, press into the base of the palms, use the abdominal muscles and the thighs to lift the hips up and come into our table, just looking directly toward the ceiling here. And again, we're gripping into those fingertips, holding here. And then we'll lower slowly down with the hips and come into our Dandasana once again with the legs extended directly out in front of the hips. From here, we're going to grasp the hands in front and we're just going to lower slowly down using the abdominal muscles to allow us to do this slowly, trying to keep the heels on the mat. Sometimes they want to pop up. As we build strength, that happens. And once we get down to the floor, let's extend the hands directly up above the shoulders. Press through the base of the palms. Press out through the heels of the feet. Really opening the front body here. Bringing the arms down on either side of the body. Bringing the right knee in toward the chest. Give it a little hug. Rock it just a little bit from side to side. And then bring that knee, place the left hand on that knee, and bring it across the body, and just let that knee fall over toward the floor. So you're going to roll up onto the outside of the left hip. You can bend the left leg just a bit as you come into this twist. Lengthen the right arm out to the right hand side. And if it feels good for your neck, you can twist to look over toward that right palm. If this is at all pinchy in the back or uncomfortable in the back, take this this right leg that's the knees bent and just press the heel toward the bottom of your mat a little bit so that the knee's not quite as bent. The knee is not quite as close to the chest or the shoulder. Just a little more lengthening there. Remembering to breathe here. Let's roll back over onto our backs. Slowly and consciously. And then we're going to bring the right foot to extend out on the mat. Bring the left knee in toward the chest. Rock it just a bit from side to side gently. Opening in the hip there. And then take the left hand on that, excuse me, the right hand on the left knee, bringing the left knee across the body and letting it fall toward the floor. So we're rolling onto that right hip, the outside of the right hip. And again, if this is at all, I say pinchy, but at all uncomfortable in the low back, just allow this left knee to lengthen toward the bottom of the mat a little bit, and then I'll provide a little more length in the side and allow a little less intensity in the low back, extending the left palm out from the left shoulder, and if it feels good for the neck, glancing over toward that extended left palm and just holding here in this twist. Noticing sensations in the back, the legs, the hip, the chest, the arms. And remembering to breathe. Let's bring that knee back. So we'll roll back onto our backs. Bringing both knees toward the ceiling and both knees toward the chest. A little rock from side to side here can feel good on the back, especially after we just did that twist. And let's bring the hands to the kneecaps. Palms are right on the kneecaps. Fingers are right on that soft part of the knee below the kneecap. And we're going to just press the knees forward so that the arms come straight. Elbows are straight. And the only thing keeping the feet from falling to the floor are the hands, just holding the knees in that place. And this puts some pressure on the sacrum, which can feel nice as we have really worked that area of the low back. Just above the tailbone there. Maybe even a little rock from side to side can feel nice, giving that sacrum a little bit of a massage. And then we'll lower the feet down. We'll lower the legs out in front and come into our full Shavasana here. And let's just turn the palms to face the ceiling. Take notice of the pattern of the breath. And we'll do a brief body scan, noticing the feet, lower legs, knees, thighs, hips and glutes. Letting go of any efforts in the legs, allowing all the muscles to release there. Coming into the pelvic region, lower abdomen, low back, stomach and mid-back, chest, upper back and shoulders. Allowing the whole torso to fully release and let go. Notice the curve of the fingers on the hands when they're fully relaxed. Palms and backs of the hands. Forearms, elbows, upper arms and shoulders. Letting go of any tension or muscle efforts in the arms, letting them relax completely. Coming into the neck. The jaw, maybe even opening the jaw slightly to release any tension there. Bring attention to the cheeks, all the muscles around the eyes and eye sockets, the temples, the forehead. Letting go of any muscle tension in the face and settling the attention right between the eyebrows. Letting go in that space as well, releasing any tension there. We'll spend just a couple of minutes here in our Shavasana. I'll let you know when it's time to come back to full awareness. for right now, just be and breathe, letting any thoughts come and go without attachment or judgment. Just be and breathe. Begin to bring a bit of movement to the fingertips and the toes. If you want to continue your Shavasana and you have time to do so, go right ahead. If you are coming back to full awareness, start to make some circles with the ankles and the wrists. Maybe rocking the hips a little from side to side. Another full body stretch here. Lengthening fingertips up above the shoulders again. And then rolling over onto one side, using the arm to pillow the head and bending the knees here. So we're going to take one full breath cycle in this position with the eyes still closed. And then we'll use the hands, again, keeping eyes closed, to press us back up to seated. Keeping the eyes closed just as long as you can. Coming into that Sukhasana, that comfortable seated position that we began our practice in. And we'll begin to come out of our practice by just noticing the depth of the breath, pacing of the breath, the heartbeat. Take notice of the spine. Take notice of those points in the body that are grounded beneath you. Notice any sensations in the body here. Notice if there's been any shift in the energy, the state of mind, or state of emotions since we started practice together. Notice the weight of the hands resting on the legs, feeling of the clothing against the skin, the temperature of the air in the room against the skin. And let's draw the hands to prayer position at the heart. Take a big full belly inhale, and on the exhale we'll chant Om together. Bringing the thumbs to rest on the forehead. May we have peace in our thoughts. Bringing thumbs to rest at the lips. May we have peace in our words. And finally, resting back on the heart space, may we have peace in our hearts. The light in me recognizes and honors the light within you. I bow as I say Namaste.
Thank you so much for being here to practice with me today. I hope that this practice has brought some peace and tranquility into your day, and that you can take that peace and tranquility, carry it with you wherever you go, into whatever space you enter today. The world needs much more of it, so spread it around. And I look forward to practicing with you again soon. If you would like to practice with me live on Sunday mornings on Zoom, there's a link in the description below where you can register to join us for a Sunday morning practice. We have an 8 a.m. and a 10 a.m. Eastern time practice on Zoom each week that I am in town, and I'll make that available for you. And I also want to encourage you to spend some time, if you can, in quiet contemplation, meditation, stillness after this practice. Even just a few minutes can increase the benefits of your practice. So I encourage you to do that if you can. I will be including some recordings of some meditations here on the YouTube channel soon, so that you can walk right into one of those after a practice if you like to do so. Thanks again. See you here again soon. Namaste.